America. Made in America. Made in America. Yeah, my old man said, old man, made in America.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Congressman Bill Johnson.
Okay, you've been awfully patient. Are you ready? Let me ask you that again. Are you ready? All right, would you please help me welcome to the stage the next Vice President of the United States from the great state of Indiana, Governor Mike Pence, and the First Lady of Indiana, Karen Pence.
She stood in the street, smiling from my head to her feet. I said, hey, what is this now, baby?
Hello, Ohio! Wow, I'm so grateful to be with you today, along with my wonderful wife, Karen Pence, and to be introduced by one of the strongest, unapologetic conservatives that Ohio has ever sent to Washington, D.C., Bill Johnson. I appreciate Bill being here so much. I can say I was for Bill Johnson before it was cool. Really is true. I came in and campaigned for him when he was running for this office, bringing that extraordinary career in military service, and I'm so humbled and so honored to be able to be with him today. Bill shared some thoughts about me earlier, but he knows the introduction I prefer is just a little bit shorter. I'm a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican in that order. And I have to tell you, with my wife at my side just a few short weeks ago, it was my high honor, I was truly humbled, to accept my party's nomination to run and serve as the next Vice President of the United States of America. And I want to tell you, I joined this campaign in a heartbeat. That late night, it was about 11 o'clock at night. We were at our residence in Indianapolis. My wife at my side, I heard that familiar voice on the other end of the phone. And he said, Mike, it's going to be great. I said yes in a heartbeat, because you have nominated a man for president who never quits, who never backs down. He's a fighter. He's a winner. And until very recently, it seemed like he was out there all on his own, but now this movement is united, this party is united, and Ohio is going to help elect Donald Trump as the next president of the United States of America. You know, Donald Trump understands the frustrations and hopes of the American people more than any other leader in my lifetime since Ronald Reagan. I truly believe it. He's never forgotten the men and women who work with their hands, who grow the food, who build our roads and bridges, who tend to our sick, who teach our kids. And he'll never forget the men and women in our law enforcement community who serve and protect our families every day. Would you join me in thanking all the members of the law enforcement community here in Ohio who are with us here today? Just show them how much we appreciate it. You know, I promise you, as the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the United States of America, a President Donald Trump will stand with the men and women in our law enforcement community. We will provide the resources they need to protect our families, go home safe to theirs, and he will restore law and order to every city and every community in this nation. You know, I've gotten to know this good man, and over the last couple of months, spent some time with him when the Klieg lights are off. And people say to me, what is it about him? And I just sum it up. We speak pretty plainly where I grew up, south of Highway 40 and down in southern Indiana. And I just like to say, Donald Trump gets it, right? I mean, he's a genuine article. He's a distinctly American leader, and he drives all those people in Europe just crazy. You know what I'm saying? I mean, when Donald Trump does the talking, he just speaks his heart and he speaks his mind, and he doesn't go tiptoeing around those thousands of rules of political correctness that the media lays in the path of men and women who are trying to make a difference. He speaks straight from his mind, and the American people hear him loud and clear. You know, the funny thing is, the party in power seems helpless to figure out our nominee. Kind of notice that? I mean, the other party and the media, they kind of all have the same problem. They keep telling each other that the usual methods are going to work against him. One thing comes up, another thing comes up. Seems like just about every day the national media particularly latches on to some issue about my running mate, and then they're talking about it on all the TV shows, right? But you know what they're not talking about? They're not talking about anything having to do with Hillary Clinton. So I thought I'd help out a little bit. I mean, did you know, for all the talk about Donald Trump on the airwaves, did you know that earlier this week on Monday, 20 miles away from Orlando, Florida, the father of the radical Islamic terrorist who murdered 49 Americans in that city attended a Hillary Clinton rally, sat right there, clear as a bell. You could see him on TV for the whole hour. And he's told the media that he was there because Hillary Clinton was, quote, good on national security. And it took her better part of a day to denounce the man. And now, in case you hadn't heard about it, and you probably haven't, now there's more emails that have come to light today that seem to provide direct evidence that favors were done by foreign contributors to the Clinton Foundation by officials at the State Department. It's the old pay-to-play system the American people are sick and tired of, and Donald Trump and I are going to bring it to a crashing end when we're elected. The truth of the matter is, every day it's like 2 on 1, right? It really is. I mean, the media is doing most of her work for her every day, right? So it's the media and the Democrats versus Donald Trump, but I got to tell you, they're still outmatched. Because each and every day they think they got him this time, they think they put him down, then you turn on the television and Donald Trump is still standing stronger than ever before and fighting for everyday Americans. And he will make America great again. It really is amazing if you think about it. At the very moment that America is crying out for something new and different, the other party is answered with a stale agenda and the most predictable of names. The country's restless for change. We're in the middle, believe it or not, and you do here, I know, just like we do in Indiana. This is the weakest recovery since the Great Depression. We have the lowest labor participation, despite all the sunny pronouncements from the other side, from fancy podiums at their conventions. We have the lowest labor participation rate since the 1970s. And there are, most heartbreakingly of all, here in Ohio and all across America, there are 7 million more Americans living in poverty today than the day that Barack Obama became president of the United States. So I just want to say, here in the great state of Ohio, which will loom so large in a decision that America will make. For the sake of our security, for the sake of our prosperity, and that of our children and our children's children, for the sake of preserving the highest standards of integrity in the highest office in the land, let's do all we must do to ensure that Hillary Clinton is never elected president of the United States of America. I mean, did you see that speech the other night she gave? I mean, it was just the same old stuff. It really was. I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't watch the whole speech. I had as hard a time staying awake as her husband did. But I mean, I did. But I mean, I guess she's going to give an economic speech tomorrow. And how about that speech Donald Trump gave on Monday describing a growing American economy? Well, whatever she says tomorrow, you ought to know here in Ohio, Hillary Clinton's planning on raising taxes by about $1.3 trillion. Increasing spending and growing government by about $3.5 trillion. No plans to roll back red tape. She plans to expand Obamacare and to continue the war on coal. You know, they tell us this economy is the best that we can do. That everything's fine in America, right? Well, we know it's nowhere near the best that we can do. It's just the best they can do. And when Donald Trump becomes president of the United States of America, we're going to get this economy working for everybody in this country. I mean, Donald Trump is a fighter. Not that it's news to anybody, but he's a fighter. All right? And he's going to fight every day to get this economy moving again. If you heard that speech the other day, he laid it out. Tax reform, regulatory reform, trade reform, and energy reform. Donald Trump and I, if we have the privilege of serving in the White House, we'll simplify taxes for everyone, streamline deductions. We will cut taxes across the board for every American. And also, Donald Trump is committed to taking that high business tax that's driving companies out of Ohio and out of this country and lowering it so our businesses can compete with businesses around the world. And on energy reform, remember, we're running against somebody that promised, this actually, if I hadn't seen it a couple times on TV, it'd be hard to believe. She actually said, Hillary Clinton said, a vote for her and there'll be a lot of coal miners and a lot of coal companies out of business. Well, you know, Donald Trump in Virginia today met with a lot of coal miners and a lot of coal companies. And Donald Trump digs coal, and we're going to get coal back in business. We're going to end the war on coal. And on day one of this administration, Donald Trump is going to repeal every one of those job-killing executive orders that Barack Obama has signed into law. And on trade, we're going to do it. Look, we all believe in free trade. We all believe in exchange. Ohio prospers through our exports, but we're about to elect one of the best negotiators on earth as President of the United States. And Donald Trump is going to renegotiate trade deals for this country so they work for the people of Ohio and work for this country. And I got to tell you, nothing of what Donald Trump's laid out. Living within your means, cutting taxes, releasing the tremendous potential of our energy economy, regulatory reform. None of that's theoretical, because I can honestly tell you, as he always tells me to do, it's not hypothetical, it's real. I mean, you've seen it here in Ohio, where you've got a great governor, in John Kasich, and a great legislature that's been cutting taxes and growing jobs. He's been doing it. And in the state of Indiana, about 10 years ago, we found ourselves in the condition that Ohio found yourselves not too terribly long ago. We had deficits and debt. Our schools had gone unreformed for a generation. Our roads had been neglected. And we decided to take a step towards common sense conservative leadership. And in the state of Indiana, we did it. Since I became governor, we passed not one, but two balanced budgets. We've made investments, record investments in education, $2.5 billion in roads. We have the largest budget reserves in the history of the state of Indiana, and I've cut taxes every single year that I've been governor of the state of Indiana. I mean, the truth is, conservative principles work every time you put them into practice, right? And they're working in Indiana. Because now, after all that we've done, I'm proud to say in our bicentennial year right next door, we have more Hoosiers going to work than ever before in the 200-year history of our state. And you know what? That's exactly what the no-nonsense leadership that Donald Trump is going to bring to the White House is going to do for all of America. It's true. And I'll tell you what, the choice at home is clear, but the choice across this globe and America's role in the world couldn't be even more clear. I mean, the failed policies of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton have weakened America's place in the world. It's undeniable. You know, history teaches us that weakness arouses evil. And the truth is that the weak leadership that Barack Obama and his Secretary of State Hillary Clinton have provided on the world stage have resulted in parts of the world virtually spinning apart. I mean, if you took a look at a map of the wider Middle East in 2009 and you looked at it today, it's barely recognizable. Imploding countries like Syria and Libya. And of course, it was Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama who squandered the hard-fought gains of the American soldier in Operation Iraqi Freedom, withdrew our forces without a long-term status of forces agreement, and created the very vacuum in which ISIS came to power. You know, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama's policy of leading from behind, moving red lines, feigning resets with Russia, the rise, rule, and reign of ISIS are a testament to what happens when a weak America stands in the world. And let me say, we were all astounded last week, weren't we? When we found out that on the very day that 4 Americans were released from captivity in Iran, that this administration authorized the delivery of $400 million in cash in violation of generations of prohibition in this country of paying ransom to terrorists. Let me tell you, when Donald Trump becomes president of the United States of America, we won't be paying ransom to terrorists or terrorist-sponsoring states. They'll be paying the price if they threaten or detain or harm American citizens or our allies. You know, the staggering failure of judgment of this administration that set ISIS on the loose, the staggering lapse of judgment where Hillary Clinton instigated the disastrous agreement with the mullahs in Iran. For all that, it seems sometimes to me pales in comparison to one particular moment. It was all Hillary Clinton. It was Hillary Clinton who left Americans in harm's way in Benghazi. And after 4 Americans fell, she actually said, "What difference at this point does it make?" Well, let me say to my friends here in Ohio, as the proud father of a United States Marine, anyone who said that, anyone who did that, should be disqualified from ever serving as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the United States of America. We cannot have 4 more years apologizing to our enemies and abandoning our friends. America needs to be strong for the world to be safe. Donald Trump, as president, will rebuild our military, stand with strength on the world stage, and confront and destroy those who threaten our freedom and our allies. You know, as I close, you know, a lot of times people ask me, as you're traveling around the state, and now as I'm traveling a little bit around the country in this campaign, they said, what do you think people are feeling out there? And I said a while back, I said, it just comes down to my conclusion. I've said it before. I think the American people are tired of being told. Okay? I think we're tired of being told this is as good as it gets. I think we're tired of being told by an establishment in Washington, D.C. that says, no, this person and these people and these policies are really going to turn things around this time. We're tired of being told by politicians, frankly, in both political parties, that they'll get to solving those problems tomorrow when they continue to pile a mountain range of debt on our children and our grandchildren. And we're tired of being told, as Ronald Reagan used to say, tired of being told that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives better for us than we can plan them ourselves. And as this election approaches, it's important to remember in that vein, while we're choosing a president for the next 4 years, that next president is likely going to set the course for the Supreme Court of the United States for the next 40 years. And we ought to think very carefully about that. Those of us who believe in the Constitution of the United States, in limited government, those who cherish our God-given liberties that are enshrined in our Constitution, need to think long and hard about it. Your former governor, Ted Strickland, who I know is applying for another job right now, actually made a comment earlier this week. Did you hear about this? He actually said, and I quote, referring to the late and great Justice Antonin Scalia, he said, the death of Scalia, quote, happened at a good time. Those remarks are appalling. And they are another reminder why Ohio needs to return Senator Rob Portman to Washington, D.C. Okay? But my friends, the passing of a constitutional scholar like the late Justice Antonin Scalia is an American tragedy, and Donald Trump and I know there is never a good time for a good man and a principled conservative to leave that court or to leave this earth. But you know what? Ted Strickland's callous remarks actually remind us of the stakes in this election as it comes to the Supreme Court. Particularly, I would say, with regard to the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. Remember, it was only a 5-4 decision back in 2008, the Heller decision, as it is known, when the Supreme Court ruled that the right to keep and bear arms is an individual right protected in the Constitution for every individual American to protect themselves and their families. Hillary Clinton actually said that was a terrible decision, okay? Her advisor said it was wrongly decided. And since the next president will likely not only make the decision to replace Justice Scalia, the careful balance of the court, but even 2 and maybe 3 justices, let me say from my heart, for the sake of the rule of law, for the sake of the sanctity of life, for the sake of our Second Amendment to the Constitution, for the sake of all of our God-given liberties, let's decide here and now, Ohio, that the next president making appointments to the Supreme Court of the United States will be President Donald Trump. This is a very challenging time in the life of our nation. It truly is. Every single one of us knows and has experienced in our families people that are experiencing the hardship. But let me close with at least a quick thought about my story and my journey. My grandfather came to this country from Ireland when he was about my son's age, about 24 years old. He went through Ellis Island. His name is actually recorded in the record books there. And he got on a train and went to Chicago, Illinois. He drove a bus there for 40 years. It's the proudest man I ever knew. I was actually named after him. It's Richard Michael Cawley, Michael Richard Pence. My grandfather left me when I was in my late 20s, but we were more friends than family. There was a bond that we had. I talked to him often about why he left his homeland and came here. And you know, the legend in our family was that my great-grandmother got him that one-way ticket. He'd never see her for 25 years. And she apparently said to him, "You need to go to America because there's a future there for you." And I can't even imagine what my grandfather is thinking looking down from glory right now. Because my great-grandmother was right. There was a future for him. He raised a wonderful little family on that bus driver's income, and he watched my mom marry a fast-talking salesman who hauled her down to southern Indiana, bought a house with a cornfield in the backyard, built a little gas station business, and built everything that matters. A family, a business, and a good name, right? But the way I was raised was that there's more in this country that unites us than what divides us. I mean, it seems there's so much that divides us today. It seems like America has evolved, for all intents and purposes, into one long cable television show, right? Got somebody over here and somebody over there. But the truth of the matter is, I believe the overwhelming support that we're seeing for Donald Trump's vision to make America great again, appealing not just to Republicans and independents, but many Democrats all across this country, is because what unites us is always larger and broader and stronger than what will ever divide us in America. And that's freedom. It's a belief in freedom. It's the belief in the American dream that my family has lived. And what probably is most foundational to that from the very beginning of this nation and before is that, as is true for millions of Americans across Ohio and across this country, that we are and shall ever be a special place, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And that's what we're fighting for. We're really fighting for an America that believes in a boundless future again. When Donald Trump talks about making America great again, he's a man that's made things great throughout his life. I mean, his grandfather immigrated to this country. His father was a self-made man, and he built on that in his life. Very similar to my story, other than a lot of zeros. But the truth of the matter is, both of us have had privileges we could have never imagined. But we've also been raised with the conviction that to whom much is given, much will be required. And this is a moment where those of us who cherish freedom and the ideals and the boundless potential of this country need to rise up and elect a president who will make America great again. The choice could not be more clear. Choice could not be more clear, ladies and gentlemen. When you leave here from today, I hope you don't leave here today and just say, "I came out to hear a speech." I hope you leave here with a burden on your heart. Because I'm telling you what, the Buckeye State is going to bloom very large. I mean, you always do. Right? It's a big state. Right? All right, you're used to it. But let me assure you, Ohio is going to loom very large in this election and thereby in the destiny of this nation. And so I want you to leave here today ready to talk to your neighbors and friends. Because the one thing I'm absolutely convinced of is every newspaper story, every internet article, every tweet, every television show, every speech that's given anywhere, it doesn't matter a hill of beans if you will stop somebody who knows you and cares about you and respects you and say to them, here's why I'm supporting Donald Trump and Mike Pence in this November's election. You can do it. The choice is in your hands, but you need to leave here tonight ready to do the work. And I'll frame it for you. I'll lay it out for you one more time, okay? Number one, the choice could not be more clear. It's change versus the status quo. And I promise you, when Donald Trump becomes president of the United States of America, the change will be huge. I mean, look, the American people can literally elect someone who personifies the failed establishment in Washington, D.C., or you can choose a leader. You can choose a fighter who will fight every day for everyday Americans and in a stronger nation at home and abroad. So here's how I see it. We have a choice to make. This is another time for choosing. But with boundless faith in the American people and faith in providence that has ever guided this nation, I say this. If you want a president who will rebuild our military, protect this nation, and confront radical Islamic terrorism and rid the world of ISIS, if you want a president who will restore law and order to the cities and towns of this country and support our law enforcement community with the resources they need, if you want a president who will cut taxes, grow the economy, squeeze every nickel out of that bloated federal bureaucracy, and repeal Obamacare lock, stock, and barrel, if you want a president who will build strong borders, build a wall, and enforce the laws of this country for the citizens of this country, and if you want a president that'll come alongside people like Congressman Bill Johnson, go to Washington and upend the status quo and uphold the Constitution of the United States of America, then we have but one choice. And I'm here to tell you, Ohio, that man is ready. This movement is ready. This nation is ready. Let's go make Donald Trump the 45th President of the United States, and we will make America great again.
School bus driver in a traffic